Hey, welcome back to Daily Hope. I've got a question for you. When you get to heaven, and of course, at first we're going to be overwhelmed by God's glory, and there's going to be a lot of spiritual moments, but then we're going to have thousands of years of wonder and ecstasy and awe, eating great food, taking walks. And one of the things I'm most looking forward to is all the other people we're going to get to meet. I don't know about you, in my life, a lot of times I'll meet someone, I have such a great interaction with them, and then I have a meeting or the next thing I need to do. I can't wait to have unlimited time. You know, one of the things that I think will surprise us when we get to heaven, in the Bible, we see these kind of main characters in stories. For example, in the Gospels, you've got Jesus and his 12 disciples. But there are these supporting characters who made the ministry happen, and they're just as important in the work of God as the main characters are. For example, I think it's in Mark chapter 8 that it describes a woman named Joanna, and she was the wife of a guy named Cusa, who was a manager in Herod's household. And what's interesting is, it might be Luke chapter 8. It's either Mark 8 or Luke 8. I'm getting sidetracked. But anyhow, it says this: Joanna was supporting Jesus and the disciples out of her own means. And so literally, as Jesus and the disciples went from village to village, it was Joanna and some other godly women who were wealthy in this world, and they were buying food and renting hotel rooms. And Jesus' public ministry, Joanna is part of it, just as much as Peter and James and John. Now, the same was true for Paul. Paul the apostle, who God used to really launch the New Testament church and change the world, his ministry was funded by a number of spiritual benefactors, if you will. And here in Philippians chapter 1, as Paul's describing his joy, we saw yesterday, he says, "Every time I think of you, I give thanks to God. Whenever I pray, I make requests for all of you with joy." And verse 5 is what we're looking at today. "For you have been my partners in spreading the good news about Christ from the time you first heard until now." So these were partners who had given repeatedly to support Paul's ministry. And I just think about this. There are people in heaven who were accomplices to all the good that God did through Paul. And maybe a lot of people don't know their names, but when we get to heaven, we're going to have the time to get to know them. And maybe you'll get to meet Paul the Apostle, and he'll be hanging out with someone eating a meal, and you'll say, "You're Paul the Apostle, I can't believe I get to meet you." And he'll be like, "Well, you've got to meet this whole table of folks because they were partners with me in spreading the good news of Christ from the very first time they heard, and then they supported me all the way through." Wouldn't that be great if that was true of you and of me? Let's live that way today. I'll see you tomorrow for more Daily Hope.